That's his doing and his learned behavior from the people that mentored him. You gotta realize, man, he learned from Andre Harrell. He learned from Russell Simmons. He learned from Clive Davis.
I'm quite sure he's gonna expose a lot of people. I'm sure he's gonna move forward with it. But I don't think it should be a situation like the Epstein thing where they found him hanging from the ceiling or dead before the truth come out.
She was the one that told me about the girls we got off of Epstein Island. She had been there. Nobody cared.
Wait, y'all didn't know that Diddy had some seriously shady ties to Jeffrey Epstein? Well, it turns out that Young Miami found some secret texts confirming Diddy and Epstein's links to the Hollywood crime underbelly, and it is equal parts creepy and terrifying. See, Jeffrey Epstein and Diddy have a lot more in common than just their shared love for freak-offs and partying with little boys and girls. Allegedly, they were also neck-deep in organized crime, from trafficking and trafficking to money laundering and blackmail. But it gets worse. You know how Jeffrey Epstein had multiple powerful businessmen and industry executives backing him up? It turns out that Diddy was just one piece on the board in a game of chess controlled by much darker figures. And those shot callers? They were the same people working with Jeffrey behind the scenes. So, what's the dark truth behind Diddy's secret industry connections? Is Young Miami's life in danger because of what she knows? Let's talk about it. So we've all heard the rumors about how Diddy's come up in the industry is suspicious because it's not really clear how he got the funds to start his record label. There have been many speculations about Diddy's mentor, Clive Davis, being the one who bankrolled Bad Boy in those early days. But as it turns out, the story goes much deeper than that. Diddy got his start in the industry while he was still a student at Howard University. At around the age of 20, he landed an internship with Uptown Records thanks to the help of his friend, Heavy D. In those days, Diddy had already established a reputation as the guy who knew how to throw the freakiest parties on and off campus. But it wasn't just that Diddy threw great parties. He also had a much darker side that started to take shape back then. There were rumors about him putting his hands on women, including one time when he allegedly used a belt on his girlfriend in public on campus at Howard. There were also allegations involving him preying on women and telling party promoter Jessica Rosenblum to take him to all the freaky night spots on the Lower East Side. Anyway, during his internship at Uptown Records, Diddy found out that the company's A&R executive had left the company, so he convinced Andre Harrell to give him the position. And just like that, Diddy became one of the youngest talent scouts in the industry. Andre became Diddy's mentor, and Diddy even lived with him for a while. Interestingly, Andre was rumored to have some shady connections of his own in the industry, and it's believed that he funded his record label through questionable means. Andre got his start in music management through a gig selling airtime for a big New York radio station called WINS. The owner of the station, J. Elroy McCall, along with his friend Morris Levy, were linked to organized crime, including heroin trafficking. The station was also later involved in one of the industry's earliest payola scandals. Andre's relationship with these people gave him some very shady connections in the industry, but it also helped him meet Russell Simmons, co-founder of record label Def Jam. Andre landed a job with the record label, and within 2 years, he worked his way up to vice president and general manager. In his role, he recruited music executive Lior Little Lansky Cohen, who later forced Russell Simmons' business partner and co-founder Rick Rubin out of Def Jam just to take over his position. Lior Cohen is famously a culture vulture and has been linked to the rise of drug addiction among rap artists, including his protege, DMX. During his time at Def Jam, Andre was known as a party animal, and he was likely one of the people who introduced Diddy to the concept of whatever happens at the freak-off stays at the freak-off. After he left Def Jam, Andre started Uptown Records, which rapidly grew to become one of the biggest record labels in the music industry. A large part of Uptown Records' early success was thanks to its distribution deal with the Music Corporation of America, MCA, an entertainment giant that dominated Hollywood for decades. Uptown's partnership with MCA started in 1987, and it stretched for about 2 years, during which Uptown secured a $50 million deal with MCA. But here's the catch. It's believed that MCA helped Andre Harrell get away with hiring enforcers and drug dealers at Uptown. MCA is also linked to one of Diddy's earliest alleged crimes, including one time when Diddy allegedly SA'd a woman after an MCA event in New York in the early 90s when Diddy was still working at Uptown. As we now know, many of Diddy's accusers in the multiple lawsuits against him were from his days at Uptown Records. But wait, it gets worse. As his mentor, Andre Harrell left a huge impression on Diddy's life. He He was also the one who employed model and actress Kim Porter to Uptown Records. Kim was Al B. Sure's girlfriend at the time, but Diddy fell in love with her, and the rest is history. Anyway, Diddy's ambition eventually became too big to fit in Uptown Records, and Andre didn't like that Diddy's ego was becoming too big. So, he fired him. After Diddy was fired from Uptown Records, he decided to form his own record label. He had the skill, charisma, network, and experience to run a record label. However, there was the little issue of finance, which Diddy was struggling with at the time. He had a bit of change from his Uptown days, but the music business is very expensive, and running a record label requires a ton of funding. This is where Clive Davis comes in. Diddy and his business partner Kirk Burroughs founded Bad Boy Records in 1993. That same year, they entered a $15 million distribution deal with Arista Records, owned by Clive Davis. Rumors have been floating around that Diddy and Clive Davis had a sugar baby sugar daddy relationship, which is why Clive was willing to bet on Diddy and basically bankroll his new record label. I mean, think about it. The music industry was growing very rapidly in the 90s, and there were dozens of other young, talented music executives Clive would have been better off gambling on. The fact that he chose Diddy was not a coincidence at all. In fact, there have even been rumors that Andre Harrell, who was previously Diddy's mentor, close friend, and the godfather of his son Justin Combs, fell out with Diddy because Diddy stole Clive from him, if you catch my drift. However, what a lot of people don't know is that it goes much deeper than that. See, Clive Davis is as shady as they come, and that's putting it mildly. Clive's journey to the top of the music industry was lined with multiple scandals, criminal activity, and many shady deals. 2 years after graduating from Harvard Law School in 1956, Clive joined Rosenman and Collin, a shady law firm that represented all sorts of crooks and criminals. One of the company's clients was Bruce Rappaport, who they allegedly helped to launder illicit funds from several illegal operations, specifically related to trafficking. Bruce Rappaport also had ties to the CIA, Israeli intelligence, and organized crime, including Semyon Mogilevich, an Eastern European mob boss. During his time at Rosenman and Collin, Clive Davis started working with CBS subsidiary Columbia Records. He worked his way up to become the president of Columbia Records, a position he held between 1967 and 1973. During this time, Clive managed and signed super talents acts like Bob Dylan, Janis Joplin, The Electric Flag, Santana, Bruce Springsteen, Billy Joel, Chicago, Loggins and Messina, Aerosmith, Earth, Wind and Fire, and the Grateful Dead. He was really good at his job and brought many revolutionary changes to Columbia Records. However, by the time he left, there was a whole web of scandals in his wake. Clive became the focus of an investigation called Project Sound, which looked into Clive's alleged payola practices, where he bribed black radio stations and did business with an organized crime figure. Clive also allegedly left a trail of phony invoices, totaling about $94,000 over 6 years that were used to cover up the funds Clive stole to bankroll his personal parties and renovate his homes. This scandal led to Clive being fired from CBS in February 1972. But here's where it gets even darker. A few days after Clive got fired, 8 people were indicted in Newark on conspiracy and smuggling charges connected to a multi-million-dollar ring operating in Italy, Canada, and the United States. But it would turn out that this whole thing was just the tip of the iceberg. The operation ran much deeper and connected to something called the Juggala scandal. But before we get into that, let's talk about how Clive Davis built Arista with the help of his shady and corrupt friends in the music and crime business. Clive's business partner was a guy named Alan Hirschfield, a major entertainment executive and CEO of Columbia Pictures. Now, Hirschfield had connections to some really shady people, especially 2 brothers, Charles and Herbert Allen, and their firm Allen & Company. The Allen brothers had ties to organized crime and intelligence-linked figures. For example, they had a bunch of companies based in the Bahamas managed by their friend Meyer Lansky, a Jewish mobster and co-founder of the National Crime Syndicate. The Allen brothers also had ties to Leon Black, an executive at Drexel Burnham Lambert, an investment bank that was so shady that it was forced into bankruptcy in 1990 due to its involvement in illegal activities. Now, here's the twist. Leon Black was a close friend of none other than Jeffrey Epstein. It's believed that they had shady businesses together and helped each other cover up their crimes through shell companies, money laundering, and blackmail. But that's not all. Clive Davis's business partner, Alan Hirschfield, was also a close associate of lawyer Alan Tesler. Tesler was a close associate of Epstein, and he even appears in the infamous Epstein Black Book with 2 addresses and 4 phone numbers listed. Alan Tesler served as the family lawyer for the Gouletas family, which has been linked to organized crime and real estate fraud. In fact, Evangeline Goulitas, one of the family members, shared an office space with Jeffrey Epstein at one point. Alan Tesler also represented Earl Bryan, who was one of the masterminds of the Promise scandal that involved Music Corporation of America, organized crime, U.S. intelligence, and Israeli intelligence. And guess what? Earl Bryan was also close with the Allen brothers we talked about earlier. So as you can see, Jeffrey Epstein's associates were people who had close ties with none other than Diddy's mentor, Clive Davis. They weren't just friends who said hi to each other once in a while. They were business partners and family friends. And that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of how deep the corruption goes. Remember how there have been rumors that Clive groomed Diddy and introduced him to the freak-off lifestyle? Well, it all goes back to that juggalo scandal I mentioned earlier. So the juggalo scandal was this period when music execs used drugs and bribes to specifically target black-oriented radio stations and music in order to control the industry. The one name that has always come up in this scandal is Clive Davis. Suge Knight once spilled the tea about how Clive Davis, Andre Harrell, and Russell Simmons used alcohol and drugs, especially that Coca-Cola, to compromise Diddy's manhood. Apparently, they got him super wasted and made him do questionable things that he didn't want to, and then recorded it to use as blackmail material over him.
Is that what you're suggesting about Sean Combs, that he was sexually abused and he now sexually abused?
Sound familiar? As it turns out, the Diddy playbook is really just the Clive Davis playbook 2.0. Diddy learned how much power you could hold by getting people in compromising positions and getting it on camera, and he never looked back.
Bro, it's crazy. I think it's very important. When I went to Diddy invited me over for dinner a couple months ago.
Oh shit, yeah, I saw that.
And yeah, it was really, really cool.
How'd you see that? I saw it on his IG.
Yeah, I posted a photo on
Oh
his.
shit.
But he told me, he gave me a piece of advice. He said, because everything was recorded, there's a camera at all times. And he told me, he's like, I've been documenting everything in my life since 1992 or whatever it was. He's like, I have footage of everything. And he's like, make sure that you bring a camera everywhere. It's important to document your life and to be able to look back on these moments and maybe be able to one day share these moments with other people and they can draw inspiration from it or whatever it may be.
Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, basically confirmed everything Suge Knight said in an interview, where he revealed that Diddy wasn't acting alone.
Some dudes belong in jail based on what they do and how they do it. We know that to be true. And it's just this situation, man, when they get down to all the facts and all what happened, he may belong in jail, bruh. And that's not my doing. That's not Cassie doing. That's his doing and his learned behavior from the people that mentored him. You gotta realize, man, he learned from Andre Harrell. He learned from Russell Simmons. He learned from Clive Davis. You understand? When those people are telling you that they were heavy into the drugs, they was heavy into beating women and doing things at that age, at that crazy stage, that's gonna make him think that he could get away with the same thing that they was getting away with back then.
Diddy went ahead and replicated the things he learned from his mentors with his mentees, Justin Bieber and Usher. But it wasn't just them. Almost every artist who has ever worked under Diddy has one horror story or the other. Guys, even Diddy's business partner, who co-founded Bad Boy Records, Kirk Burroughs, has a Diddy horror story. Kirk sued Diddy and his mother, Janice Combs, for allegedly trying to pull a Clive Davis on him. Kirk claimed that Diddy subjected him to repeated SH, physical aggression, and forced compliance with degrading X acts throughout the 1990s. He also claimed that Diddy targeted him with unwanted advances, including acts of nudity, sexual overtones, voyeurism, and acts of exhibitionism, some of which allegedly took place during business meetings, and that this was part of a larger campaign of control. Eventually, Diddy was able to gain enough control over Kirk that he was able to force him out of his 25% stake in Bad Boy Records. As the Diddy trial continues to get more and more heated, many of these links are coming out in court, and it is not looking good. So many people who Diddy thought would never snitch on him are folding like origami once the feds hit them with those freak-off videos. Yes, even Young Miami. But what are your thoughts on Diddy's link to Jeffrey Epstein? Do you think this Diddy case is going to drag more people under? Sound off in the comments below and stick around for this next video.